focus on Liberia. From Cape Mount to Cape Palmas, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Reliable information. History. Talking about culture. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia Live on FOL TV and Kia Radio 95.9 in Monrovia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In this edition of Focus on Liberia, we are going to be discussing some pertinent issues. Number one, the Nimba Senatorial election this month. So we're going to be talking about that. Also, the Bill of Information before the Supreme Court. I've been expecting the ruling very soon, but why is it taking too long? Or in fact, what is too long? Also, Senator Nyonblee Kanga Lawrence, that's the pro tem of the Senate, has called for action against maternity deaths in the country. Well, whose action, Nyonblee? We're going to be talking about that. Last and definitely not the least, the broken infrastructure in Buakai's Liberia. I think the president should own Liberia now and don't trump us by blaming Joe Biden. So, and when I say broken infrastructure, I'm talking about like you look at schools, you look at this and that. Like the pictures we see, you see people on the floor, you see library and all that. That's something is broken. What happened and what can we do? Well, let me welcome our panelists here, starting from Dr. Fidel C.T. Budi, who's joining us from the UK. Welcome, Doc.
Thank you, Dennis. Always good to be here.
Thank you. Let me also welcome Dr. George Wa Williams, who is on his way to the classroom. Welcome, George.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Thank you so much. And I appreciate being in the company of Dr. Budi to share our thoughts on these very important national issues.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Let me welcome our producer at controls at Kia Radio, Mr. George Goe. Welcome, George.
Yeah, good evening, guys. It's good to be here this evening.
Please tell our people in Liberia we are live.
Also, folks, so wherever you are on a Thursday evening in Central Monrovia, we are live on the radio. Also, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. So all you need to do, sit back and relax. Later on, we'll open the phone lines to get a view. But welcome to Focus Liberia on Care Radio 95.9.
Thank you. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, and we are focusing on these very important issues, right? And let's start with the Bill of Information before the Supreme Court. right? We all know about the what's going on in the House of Representatives. The Supreme Court ruled before, gave its ruling, and say this is what it is. Well, to many people, it was confusing. In fact, the Minister of Justice explained it his own way. The Funati Kofa bloc was explained it another way, and the so-called majority bloc explained it its own way. So the Bill of Information. But what we watch is like they were having a new hearing, right? But whatever it is, the Bill of Information we are expecting, but it's kind of a little slow, right? And we're hearing rumors and all that. So Fidel, let me start with you on why is this taking too long, and what do you think the impact of that clarification is going to be?
Well, thanks, Dennis. I think, look, first of all, we shouldn't even be in this situation, right? The Supreme Court had an opportunity last year to clarify the mess that was going on at the legislature, where you had a group of individuals who felt that they're above the law, recognizing that they didn't have the 49 votes to get Speaker Funati Kofa out legally. So they decided to resort to kind of gangsterism in terms of how they act, and not as honorable men and women. When they went to the Supreme Court, this whole ultra virus thing, we already struggling to speak the English in Liberia. The English that we can speak, we don't even know how to speak it, then you bring Latin. How is that supposed to help? The Supreme Court had an opportunity to demonstrate independence, to demonstrate to the Liberian people that it is on the side of the Constitution. And the Supreme Court, I believe, played politics with the Liberian people, because the whole ultra virus thing did not clearly spell out, because you have to spell it out. When you're dealing with people, and Dr. Williams will probably buttress me on this. When you're dealing with people that you need to try and educate, it's always good to simplify things so that there are no doubts, right? So you should write it in simple English, so that even the market man, woman, or the Yana boy, or the Zobo will read it and understand.
Permit me, Fidel. The Supreme Court was not speaking to us, right?
Who was the Supreme Court speaking to?
Speaking to lawyers.
The Supreme Court, Dennis, the Supreme Court is interpreting the Constitution based on who the impact of the application of the Constitution will affect the most. It is the Liberian people that pay in the legislature.
Right. So if you say
they're our representatives, right? Every representative in the House represents you and me. So it's me and you in the House by proxy. So they're speaking to us. That's my point. They're speaking to us because
the odds at me is that language was clear enough to say what you are doing is outside the Constitution.
No, it wasn't. Because if it was clear enough, then ordinary people in Liberia wouldn't be rushing here and there to try and get the understanding of the meaning of it.
They're playing politics. They know why.
Then you are stating the point that I'm stating. You're interrupting me to state the point that I am stating.
Because I'm so excited. Let's go.
No, but I said that the Supreme Court initially played politics with this thing when they should not have done it. They tried to shield themselves, but it's almost like you've got, like those of us who had the opportunity to live or spend time with our grandparents, and there are a lot of grandkids, and two of the grandkids fight, and anyone made one of them vex with the other one, so they would just say something that some kind of way that nobody can understand. That's basically what the Supreme Court did. They don't want to say the fact very clearly because they don't want to upset the president, because he had his fingers behind the scenes by taking Funati to Rome or wherever he went, and then these guys were supposed to stage the coup behind him, and the coup failed. And then they don't want to upset Cohen as well, because the Supreme Court are unsure because of the maneuvers that the executive branch has basically giving Cohen all of the authority of the speakership without him being the legal speaker. They send the bills, what's this thing called, the budget, to him to pass. They send all of the communications to the legislature is going through Cohen. So clearly the Supreme Court themselves, because their hands, they believe, are in the mouth of these individuals, they have to play politics, or else their salary will not come. This is as far salary coming Bennett. And now, unfortunately, because Kofa, and again, I'm not a Kofa fan, I don't know the guy, I'm not against him either, But because he decided to say, no, I'm going to fight the good fight. I'm not going to go like Snowden went. I'm not going to go like Tyler went. I resign. No, I'm going to fight the fight. If you want to remove me, do it legally. Come to the chambers. Let's debate. Let's get the vote. If we get 49, I walk away. And I'm glad that he did, because now we have to come to a conclusion. The Supreme Court, look, anybody reading the law can understand Article 49. It's clear, simple English, right? So the Supreme Court has no other option but to come and interpret the simple English as they see it.
Thank you. Let me also welcome the host of Hour of Politics on Focus on Labroad, Mr. Anthony Morancy. Welcome, Anthony.
Dennis, it's good to be here, and thanks. And I want to welcome Dr. Fidel C. Bodie and Dr. George William, and to our esteemed audience, those in Radio Land via Kia Radio and cyberspace. Let's have a discussion. I'm happy to be here, Dennis.
Thank you. Dr. William, why are we here? Why are we talking about Supreme Court decision? To me, is kind of maybe it's slow coming. Now we heard the news that, hey, President Bouaka is saying delay this by 2 weeks. And why are we here in the first place?
Dennis, I will say this much. At least 3 of the people on the Supreme Court are people that I know personally, and I have no reason to question their integrity in any way or form. I think when the Supreme Court spoke at its initial hearing, the intent was and the intent of those pronouncements was they were speaking to lawyers, they were speaking to an elitist group. They weren't speaking to ordinary people. No, they were speaking to people who had filed um, an injunction on processes at the legislature, and so they had to speak at that level. The law, and I've come to learn that the law is generally carved out in ways to ensure that what is considered ambiguous, to ensure that if and when there are hitches in terms of its interpretation, lawyers are able to maneuver the way out. I believe the Supreme Court knew what they were saying. They weren't emphatic in terms of clearly what the outcome, the expected outcome of their pronouncement was. And so the need for a bill of information and clarity had to take place. But for all intents and purposes, the Supreme Court knew exactly where the laws were breached in terms of the House's own procedures and rules, as against the procedure laid out to remove a speaker, elect and remove a speaker. Those were clear cut instances where the Supreme Court was emphatic in saying what wasn't done at all is not done, what wasn't done legally isn't done at all. And so, but why has it taken so long? I think there are lots of maneuvering going on in terms of the implications of what those results will mean for the government. It's a slap in the face of the government, it's a slap in the face of the executive and the legislature, including the Senate. It's a huge slap in the face. And I think whatever is being done now is an attempt to, if not minimize the impact, but hopefully not to alter the course of what is obvious. That Fonati Kofa remains Speaker. Richard Kuhn has to now bring in the votes to remove Fonati Kofa. There are procedural issues that needs to be met and must be met for this process to come. This is not about Fonati Kofa, Dr. Budi alluded to. It's all about fostering a system in which we follow the rule of law. No one is a fan of Fonati Kofa. I'm from Grand Crew, he's from Grand Crew, but that matters very little in terms of what's being done right now. It's about prosperity. And previous speakers before him who were removed unceremoniously felt the need to resign. And I think I respect the fact that he hasn't. I look forward to the Supreme Court coming down with its decision. And I think the executive needs to experience the results of its efforts over the last 6, 7 months. Its failed efforts to remove a speaker so that hopefully going into the future, the laws are strengthened, processes are instituted to ensure that we're not coming down this road ever anytime soon. All right.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dennis. Can I just have like a minute to just push back slightly on my esteemed brother, because I think obviously, I'm glad that he made the disclaimer that he knows three of the people on the court bench, and I think I disagree that it wasn't political. I question the integrity of the court because I believe, like we've all heard the phrase, ignorance of the law is not an excuse, right? So if the law was written intentionally to be ambiguous, then when people are ignorant of it because they don't understand it, you can't then say being ignorant of it is not an excuse. Every law, and I speak initially from the UK, and most laws, including the US law and Liberian law that came out of that, came from English law. And in English law, it is written in common, ordinary, simple English so that everyone can understand, right? Any reasonable person, in the UK, they use the phrase reasonable person. Any reasonable person should be able to read it and understand. I've read it. I'm not a lawyer, right? I've read the Constitution, 33 and 49, and I understand it perfectly, right? You can't tell me that people who are then in power or entrusted to make laws can read simple English. These guys try to stage a coup. The coup failed because Fonati get high, right? Fonati said, no, I will not go. Now, the Supreme Court became political because they are either afraid or in bed with the president. And now that means their integrity is in tatters. There is no integrity there. So we wait to see because even the delay proves the lack of integrity.
Thank you.
Well,
hold on, George. We got a lawyer here now. Let's get this because there seems to be a constitutional legal debate now. Anthony Konyine, was the Supreme Court ruling clear enough, or do we need further explanation or bill of information to explain that? Or people just playing politics with it? I think I want you to clarify that. I have a separate question for you.
I think there's Fonati Kun issue. People bring a lot of sentiments to it. If you look on the Supreme Court bench, we have some of the most esteemed lawyers on that bench. So they wrote their opinion, and if I'm correct, it seems like they directed their opinion at both groups, and telling the majority black that sort of they don't believe that Kun was right. I mean, not Kun. Fonati was rightfully removed, but then also telling Fonati that he can preside without a quorum, and that was the ruling. And they said to them, the Supreme Court cannot do for you what you ought to do for yourself. But in Liberia modern day, we have all taken sides. There is the pro-WIA group, there is the pro-UP group, and there is the pro-all kinds of groups. So everybody expects that the Supreme Court will couch things in the language that people want to hear. But the Supreme Court has spoken. Mind you, a bill of information is nothing new. There is nothing spectacular that is going to be said because by law, the Supreme Court cannot deviate from what they have already written. So they may clarify a little bit in terms of what they say that they have said, but clearly what they have said is that both groups are in default, both groups are wrong, and so when both groups are wrong, they fall back on the political process for it to be resolved. So that's my
what is that political process?
So what do you mean by both groups are wrong now? What did Fonati group do wrong?
You got an opinion with you? Because Fonati is supposed to preside when he has a quorum, not so?
Well, he didn't try to preside, did he? He asked them to come back to the legislature.
No, just a point. He is supposed to preside when he has a quorum. Is that correct?
But did he try to reside?
It's not the point.
Preside, not reside.
It's not the point. The point is he is supposed to preside.
He did something wrong. What wrong did he do? That's the question.
When I say wrong, what I mean is that what I'm saying is that he is not able to preside as a speaker.
But he didn't try to preside.
All right.
So you can't say he's wrong, but he didn't do the thing.
Is semantic?
No, it's not semantics, Dennis. That's not semantics. No, that's not. You're not saying the same thing in different words. That's not semantics.
Look, what I'm trying to say is in simple
what the counselor is saying is wrong. He's saying Fonati did something wrong, but Fonati did not do anything. Fonati did not hold hearing.
Okay, let me go back with my choice of words.
Yeah, that's
what I said was both of them were in fault. Okay, the fact is Fonati is supposed to preside when he has a quorum.
Right.
So
not having a quorum is not a fault. That's what Dr. Budi is saying.
Oh, okay.
And he didn't try to do any business without quorum.
Just a point. You can take it that it's not a fault, right? But from my point of view, if you are a speaker and you are supposed to preside, not having a quorum is a fault. That's how I see it.
No, it's a limitation. It's not a fault.
Secondly, in parliamentary systems, a speaker is only speaker if he can convene a forum. If he can convene a quorum. So all this thing we're talking, we're going to bring a lot of. Hello?
Dr. William, please flip your phone in landscape.
So we bring a lot of sentiments to it, but the fact of the matter is, both groups cannot prevail at this point.
You cannot proceed.
Sorry?
Yeah, I got you. Both groups
cannot prevail. That's why the Supreme Court said that they cannot do for the House what the House should do for itself. Meaning, look, this thing is a stalemate. You guys have to go back and engage the political process. And people are saying, no, you need to say either majority black is correct, or you need to say minority black or the Fonati black is correct. I doubt if the Supreme Court is going to go down that road. They are just going to restate what they say in the opinion.
Anthony Freeman, help me understand. So, in essence, majority block, you are proceeding wrongly. So, Kun is not a legitimate speaker. That's what they say.
Yeah. That's what they say.
And they say, hey, Fonati, if you have quorum,
you don't have a quorum.
You don't have quorum. You can compel the people to come, but we don't have a way of telling you to say this is the step in compelling the people to be in the meeting. So right now, you'll go back to status quo, right? So since at that point, you are all wrong. So that's what I thought that was clear. But people were playing politics with it.
But when you go back to what Dr. Budi said,
they wanted the Supreme Court to say is just like you judging case between
somebody is wrong and somebody is correct.
But Anthony, let me go to you.
There's a couple of things the Anthony said.
Hold on, Dr. Budi. Let me bring in Anthony a little bit before he falls asleep. Anthony, does President Bouaka have any fish to fry in this? And at this point now, where there are allegations against the executive of trying to meddle into this thing, is his silent the right approach to take in this matter?
Dennis, thank you. And I will ask the panelists here to follow the moderator lead and wait for their time so we can have a civil discussion here. People are listening to us on the radio and people are listening to us on Facebook. This is a serious matter in our country. Our country, in terms of leadership, is in chaos as a result of this mess that we have on our hands that could have been handled way before time. And the reason we are having that is that we have leaders who don't have the fortitude, who lack simple understanding about the potential of these kind of blunders that we are experiencing. Look, this matter is simple. Let me go to the Constitution, Article 33 and 49. They are very simple. You need 49% to remove a speaker. The group purporting to be majority bloc did not get 49. The Constitution is simple. Dr. Budi couldn't have said it right. You need 49%. You need 2/3 to remove a speaker. I believe you also need 2/3 to elect a speaker. And somebody can correct me, and I'm not sure about that. That's how you elect a speaker. So when a speaker is elected, that speaker remains the legitimate speaker until that speaker is removed through a resolution that will get a two-thirds blessing. That did not happen. So in my mind, Funati remains speaker. So for the so-called majority bloc to be moving ahead that they have a speaker when they have not met the constitutional requirement to remove a speaker, and now they think they have a speaker, they are dead wrong. And the Supreme Court should be should have the courage enough to tell them that you are proceeding wrongly.
The Supreme Court did. They did.
Very lately, the Supreme Court said it. So we have a lot of problems concerning this issue. The Supreme Court is a bigger one. You asked the question about President Baka, whether President Baka have any fish to fry. He has every fish to fry in it. And the reason this thing has persisted to this time is because President Baka has played politics with this from day one. He has wanted and continued to want a speaker that will come from his party. It is his right to support a speaker, nothing wrong with that. But when you do not succeed, you do not support a coup. You support a political process that is based on the rule of law. It is the president's right to want a speaker of his choice. That's his right. And he's entitled to that. But that speaker must be elected as speaker, on the basis of the rule of law. They must follow the laws. The laws are not being followed yet, and that is the problem. And so now you see the president now, because he cannot get his way in the House, he's now going to the Supreme Court. Reports that the president is trying to negotiate and talk to some of the associate justices. Report had it that he spoke to two of them. He invited them to his home. Many people believe that to be true. And if the president is doing that, then it says everything about why he's meddling in this. Dr. George was talking about the outcome, whether the Supreme Court were concerned about the outcome. Supreme Court should not be concerned about the outcome. Supreme Court should be concerned about interpreting the law. That is their responsibility constitutionally, to interpret the law, to tell us what the law says. That's what they should be concerned about. Some time ago, Konyanen was here.
Yeah.
He said, you think the Supreme Court, looking at the Funantisa, the so-called majority, they can't get anything done because they don't have quorum. You think they will make a decision, and Konyanen, you can challenge me because I see there as a debate. He's saying that you think the Supreme Court going to make a decision that gave them a blessing when they know that they don't have quorum, let's say to pass the budget, the country is going to be held hostage. In other words, you're saying Supreme Court now is making decision looking at the economic ramification of the country, that the country might be held hostage. So they will make a decision, though it may not be legal, but in their judgment, that is convenient for the country. This is sad. Lawyers shouldn't be doing that, Dennis.
No, let me correct something.
Please.
Anthony.
Yes.
That is what we call legal philosophy. Their legal philosophy will determine how you are most likely to rule. For example, in the US, you have conservative and you have liberal. So when a case goes to the Supreme Court, the fact that somebody is already a conservative, chances are they are going to lean on the right. And the fact that somebody is a liberal, chances are they will lean on the left. That is how the law is.
Okay.
The other thing I want to say is,
yes, let's end that, right? So what's the legal? So how does that apply to Liberia?
There's nothing wrong if they make a decision and considering the budgetary implication. If nothing is unlawful,
that's not everything wrong with that.
I said,
when you call everything wrong, I'm telling you that there is a perspective with which if jurors come to the law. Some people come with a human rights perspective. Some people come with a law and business perspective. Some people come with a political science perspective. So that's
wrong, though.
Yeah,
But let me
That's
come in
wrong.
after the
that is
counselor,
wrong.
please.
Yeah. Because that's why they call the people advocate judges. If you come with your advocate perspective and you are not interpreting the law, so if you are saying,
So
for
now
instance,
let's say the
hold on
U.S.
one
Supreme
second.
Court, right?
If
They
the Supreme
interpret
Court,
judgment in favor, like they have more conservative judges, and a lot of time they rule in favor of conservative opinion. You call that wrong also?
no, because that's a, if you say conservative opinion, right? Because
But
there
that's
is a,
it.
no, but because there, but in your case, if they are making the decision based on their pocketbook, if I don't rule this way, I will not get paid. Then that's not.
No, you're
That's
not
not.
getting it. You're not getting my point. You're not getting my
No,
point.
I'm not.
Okay. Anthony, let's just take it that you are a political science person, right? Let me take it that way.
Yeah.
If a case go to court and maybe you have a business angle and it has a human rights angle and then it has a political angle and you're a lawyer, you are going to look for the laws that support the political angle and you are going to write your opinion supporting that political angle because that's your line of thinking. That's the point I'm making. So there is nothing illegal. They're not doing anything illegal. Everybody have some kind of thinking perspective with which they bring to the law. And that perspective
then my
filter it, but
question
it doesn't mean
is
that they
that
are
fair?
writing illegal. They are looking for laws that will back.
And then my question is that
No,
fair?
let me-
Would
No,
it
no,
not be
can I
similar
come
to
in?
ours?
That's the system that we have. There's an adversarial system that is. You find
I disagree,
laws
Koine.
to
Koine,
back
I
your
disagree.
position, and then you argue for your position. If you win other people, you win the case.
Koine,
no,
I disagree.
you find a law
I'm
to
not a
back
lawyer,
your
but I
position. But
disagree
in the
strongly.
case
Very
of
strongly.
the budget, to say, well, let the budget pass. That's not a. That's
No, I
that,
didn't say that's what they said. I didn't say that what they said. They were not ready in the but they were not ready in the opinion. They were not ready anything like that in the opinion. But I'm telling you that there is a rationale. Okay, let me tell you. Buddha said something here. The judges, they will always use the ordinary man's standard. Ordinary man's standard. That is typically how you see the common person is going to think. They are going to think in that. They will never write in the opinion that we are making a decision based on budgetary consideration. They're not going to write that there. But it may factor in to their decision when they write. They will find any kind of law to justify which side they want to lean on. That's how it works.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, let me
30 seconds. I want us to make
My simple question that is that
Hold
fair?
on, hold on.
No, 1 minute, Anthony. You say you want
Yeah.
respect the host now, and you don't want to respect the host. You can put law down, and you want to follow. Don't allow the Supreme Court. Basically, the Supreme Court of Liberia should not. I'm with Anthony on this. They cannot. When you talk about the U.S. Supreme Court, right? Even the conservatives and the liberals, when they interpret the law, they interpret the law, even if it's liberal leanings, which makes more contemporary understanding of the law, but it is still the text that they use. They don't say, oh, the budget got to pass, so we will take the majority. When the Constitution text clearly says that you have to be 49, then you say, okay, we'll say 43 because the budget need to pass. Then another the Constitution there.
But
And
I
that's
never
what
said
Anthony is
that.
saying.
I mean,
No, but you said
I never said that.
you said they take it. No, but you just said now that they take the budgetary aspect into consideration. You just said it.
But I didn't say they will write it in the text. I didn't say they will write it in the
We're not
text.
talking about writing it. Anthony and I are not talking about writing it. We're talking about even considering it. Because you should only consider the text, 3349. That's all you consider. Whether a budget passes or not, that's irrelevant. The law is the law, the text. So to even consider the budget is irrelevant.
Thank you. So hold on. I don't want us to relitigate. In fact, the Supreme Court did that. They went to that, and it was like they were judging new case. Supreme Court, look, you were only clarifying. Can't talk about Charlie King time here. My thing here is the last question, just 1 minute each, is what you think the impact of that Supreme Court interpretation or clarification going to be, Dr. Williams?
So from my end, the impact is going to be enormous. One is going to break public trust in the executive and the Senate by their acceptance of a misjudged interpretation of the Supreme Court ruling. It's going to bring further damage and muddy the integrity of the Attorney General. As a lawyer, we're ordinary people. Us on this panel, other than Kohini, we're not lawyers, but we understood exactly what the Supreme Court wanted. And for the Attorney General to have interpreted in the manner and form that he did speaks volume about his level of integrity. And so that's going to bring the Attorney General into further question. As far as the executive is concerned, they're the biggest losers and will be the biggest losers should the Supreme Court come out and reaffirm the initial ruling. It will be the executive because the executive at every level of the process continue to show biasness, show their preference for the Kun camp. And this would be a slap in the face, a reason behind why the delays we're seeing right now.
Thank you. Continuing the same question, but on top of that, why is President Bouakai not talking? I was hearing that he was supposed to even be on OK FM, but that's canceled. I mean, why?
If the president wants to get involved, he can only do so in the background. I think it would not be advisable for him to visibly be seen as interfering in the affairs of the legislature. But here's the thing, gentlemen, we shouldn't come here and like what should I say, postulate on something that is already written. The Supreme Court already wrote an opinion. One group is hanging on to Article 49. Another group is hanging on to Article 33. And the Supreme Court is saying, no, you can't hang on to one part of the Constitution. All two must work together. So if you come and say you got a right to remove this man because you have 90 or you have 49 or whatever, or he doesn't have a quorum, the other group, you can't hang on to 33. It has to work together. So is as far as I see, the Supreme Court is saying that both sides are in error. Okay, and the way to solve that error is for you to go back to the House of Legislature and resolve it there. That is what they have said in the opinion. It's unlikely that they will come and write something different because by law they are not supposed to differ with their own opinion. Right. You know, so for me, that's how I see it.
But please end it when you say go back and resolve it. What is that resolve? Meaning go back and go back, let Fonati preside. And make sure you have 49 before you remove it. Is that what it means?
Oh, it doesn't really matter. I mean, when they go back, they will follow the rules and they will negotiate whatever rules they use in the house for solving problems. They will use those rules in the house, right? But the Supreme Court is not forgotten from what I see. They already said that you have to combine Article 33 and Article 49. You can't hang on to 33 and ignore 49. You can't hang on to 49 and ignore 33. So both parties must go back and resolve it. And I feel, take for example, let's just go back to, let's say the rule for Kofa. Kofa goes back, Kofa still needs quorum. He still needs quorum. If the people who choose not to sit on a Kofa Gaba decide to stay away, Kofa is not going to ever get a quorum. So think about it. So the solution is not simply that Supreme Court come and say, oh, Kofa is right and this other person is wrong. If they can go back and the guys who decided, let's say the honor Kofa Gaba, if they choose not to say Kofa is never ever going to have a quorum.
And they are never going to be a speaker because Kun is not legit, right?
Yeah, no, he's not legit. Exactly. You know, but, right. I mean, parliamentary system all around the world presupposes that in order for you to be speaker, you must have a quorum at a minimum. That's it. It's just that this is Liberia where they are fighting over the financial resources, and so they're making very difficult. But the fact of the matter is, for you to be speaker, condition number one is that you must be able to convene a quorum.
Okay, so what do you think the Supreme Court interpretation, what the impact going to be in, let's say they did it tomorrow?
Oh, let's start with the one that most people want. Kofa. They say Kofa is correct, the other people are wrong. Kofa goes tomorrow and he calls a meeting and he still gets I think he was getting 33 or 34. And he continues to get it 33 or 34. Then what next? He is still not speaker. He is only speaker only on paper, but he's not effectively speaker. What you need to know, the law can give you a way to do a thing, but there are several legal ways to do something. So those guys needed to get 49. When they didn't get 49, they shot Leonard to deny him of a quorum. It's not necessarily illegal. You know, the only thing they can do in that case, because they have not removed him legally in terms of maybe giving him a due process right and so, but they have denied him of a quorum. And once you are a speaker, a presiding officer, and they deny you of a quorum, you finish. There's nothing left for you.
I got your point. So the stalemate will continue, and then President Bouaka will continue to work with one side, even though that person is illegal. Mr. C. Mr. C, what do you think the impact is going to be at the end? And I like how Konyene put it, because if the Supreme Court say, hey, majority, you're wrong, Kofa, you're right, but Kofa, you need forum, you need a quorum, and so no quorum, the stalemate will continue until, you know, and then when there's another budget, President Bouaka will know where to send it. Mr. C.
Then at this time, I don't know what impact it's going to have. Because we have no way of knowing whether both sides will be able to abide by any clarity that the Supreme Court is going to provide. The lawyers continue to say Supreme Court is not going to make a different opinion. They are only going to interpret or clarify their previous opinion in clear terms so that the ordinary person can understand. We already seen some of that. The last time we heard from them, they were clear. And the clarity was so loud that it was obvious their fingers pointed heavily at the so-called majority bloc that you are in error. That is my understanding. So I don't have any way of knowing. It will have an impact positively if the purported and so-called majority bloc decide to respect what the opinion of the Supreme Court going to be. Konyene is wrong when he say the minority bloc is wrong. They're not wrong. The Constitution is clear that if you don't have a quorum, the minority must convene and reconvene until they can compare the others to come. How do they compare that people until they convene? And when they get there, they don't have quorum, they leave. That's what they're doing. It is stated in the Constitution. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. When they go there, they don't say, well, we're going to pass a bill. They're not doing anything of that because they don't have quorum. So Konyene continue to say they are wrong. They are not wrong. And Konyene need to explain it. I don't see how.
No, he's just using the wrong word. His
choice of word is just not right. You know,
he's using the wrong word. Wrong is not it.
I don't want him to say that they are wrong for convening.
He corrected you now. He said they can proceed. They can proceed.
They can proceed.
And the other thing he said is that Funanti is just a speaker on paper. That is also wrong. He was elected. The fact that the majority of the members are not recognizing him does not make him a speaker on paper. No. He is a constitutionally elected speaker, and his recognition is by law. It's not by feelings. All right.
Right.
I understand the political aspect. He means disabled politically. That doesn't mean he just a speaker on paper. He's speaker by law, and he, as a lawyer, should be the one to tell us that this.
Let me ask you a question. You're speaking through a microphone right now, right? You're speaking through a microphone, right?
Yes.
If you speak through a microphone and no audio comes out, is it technically a microphone?
Yes, it is a microphone. It's just malfunctioning.
All right.
Okay.
Right. All right. So if you are a speaker, you can't do anything. You are just on paper. I think that's why he can function. He can't even convene.
Am I going to get my 5 minutes that the councilor got as well?
No, I didn't get 5 minutes.
You need 5 minutes.
For 5 minutes. I was monitoring the time. But
yeah,
anyway.
I did that because I can decide what to do. I can give the.
No, I agree. That's why I asked what I'll be afforded the same courtesy.
No,
you will be another Supreme Court. I'll be wasting our time with one interpretation.
but let's go quickly because I want us to move on. We have 4 issues here.
Okay.
Dr. Budi.
Oh, I'm allowed to. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about the speaker thing because Anthony touched on that very clearly, right? The fact that he's speaker is by constitution. It's not because the people. Look, you asked the question, what is going to be the impact? I don't think there's going to be any impact, right? I think if the Supreme Court comes out and clarifies this, even if the majority bloc decides to go back under the gavel of Speaker Kofa, it will just be business as usual, because this president has already proven to the Liberian people that he's lawless. He's done it with the tenure positions. His legal advisor came and gave some nonsense explanation. He's done it with the central bank. Nobody said anything about it. He continues to break the law, and nobody's saying anything about it. So this will just be another thing that the Liberian people just say, it happened. Let's move on from that. So there will be no impact. Fonati, councillor, is not hanging on to Article 33, right? Basically, the Constitution is clear. 33 talks about electing the speaker and quorum and all of that. The issue at hand here is removal of the speaker. That's only 49 that works here. The rest of the other thing, there's no hanging, right? So there's none of that. Now, finally, when Dennis asked the question, what should the president say? Should the president be speaking? Yes, the president of the Republic of Liberia should speak out. When in the U.S. Under President Trump's first term in office, and the Democrats were holding the budget, they didn't want to pass the budget, the president came out and spoke to say the legislature need to pass the budget because the people's business need to be done. The president is a member of the government, right? Yes, there are 3 branches, but he is a member of the government. So he can speak to issues that are affecting the Liberian people. When you have a group of lawyer representatives that are stealing from the Liberian people because they're collecting salary and not doing their work, right? For 3 months, they're sitting in some hotel. The president should come out and say, this is not right. The Liberian people paying you to do a job, go back in there and do a job. They might not listen to him, but at least he will show that he's fighting for the people. Now, you're saying that, he should do it behind the scenes. He's not doing it behind the scenes. He's doing it outside, because you don't send the budget to an illegitimate speaker and call that behind the scenes. That's a broad daylight indication that I, President Joseph Boakai, believe that the Constitution of Liberia is trash and we should not follow it.
Thank you. I agree with you. Let's go to our next issue here. Nimba County Senatorial by-election. The election is April 22, and I hope all of you are following it. Dr. William, what are the issues that the people of Nimba should care about, upon which they should elect a senator to replace the fallen Senator Prince Y. Johnson?
So there's a large number of issues. I haven't been to Nimba in many years, so I'm not clear on what the main issues are. I know Nimba is one of the fastest, Ganta, one of the fastest growing cities.
Let me tell you one of the issues Koka is preaching is you need someone who will walk in the footsteps, if you will say, of Prince Johnson.
Yeah, unfortunately, there isn't anyone alive who can walk in the footsteps of Prince Johnson. His circumstances are unique to him, and it's going to stay that way. What Nimba needs right now is a representation that puts Nimba on the footing, not just with the citizens of Nimba, but the entire country. What Nimba needs to do is to set an example of the kind of Liberia representation we want to see across the country. What Nimba needs is not a representative, and I'm going to be emphatic about this, not a representative who wants to be senator before he does for his county what he could have done for his county as a representative. What Nimba needs is a leader. Nimba should not attempt to want to recreate Prince Johnson, because Prince Johnson cannot be recreated. Nimba needs to look into her fold, save the country money by ensuring that people who are already in the legislature and haven't been able to do for the county what they're now hoping to do, but to give another aspirant a chance to come and do for the county and the country what others in the legislature haven't been able to do in 6, 12, and 6, 9, and 18 years. Some have been there for over 27 years. So I think there are lots of issues. Nimba is in the forefront of economic development across the country, and I think they need a leader who has the exposure to drive them towards that end. And so on that note, I am one of those. I come from Grand Cru. My county is inaccessible to the rest of the country, but whatever happens in Nimba County affects Liberia as a whole. And I think Nimba deserves the best amongst those candidates. And I think they should go to back a candidate that can deliver for them, not one who's been there and hasn't delivered much and is waiting to become senator to do so.
Thank you. At the end, I'm going to ask you if you are endorsing any candidate. Dr. Booty, same on the same line. I mean, on the periphery, they're talking about, hey, who can replace Prince Johnson? Some say, hey, we want tribal balance. Some say gender balance. And all this kind of thing. I believe those are all fluff. But what should Nimba people be voting on?
Well,
because has Nimba go so the country? So, if that statement is correct.
Well, that statement, I'll come to the statement. So just a quick disclaimer. I've got a lot of personal stake in Nimba County. So both my parents were born there. I grew up there as well. And we've got strong ties in the Ganta area as well. So, yeah. So I keep my ears to the ground. The current senator, Senator Twine, and I were classmates together at Ganta Methodist. So I keep my ears to the ground. In terms of, look, I was just reading allafrica.com before coming online, and I think Koga is in the lead, as they put it, and the former superintendent, Madam Edith Gonglowe, is kind of second. If you ask me what Nimba needs in terms of who they vote for, I think what Nimba is searching for, right, in this election, and my esteemed brother, Dr. Williams, has touched on this, Nimba is searching for a Prince Johnson replacement. I said on one of our other talk shows on Point a couple of weeks ago, I do not believe that we're going to see the same Nimba County we saw when Prince Johnson was alive. In terms of what you just mentioned, wherever Nimba goes, that's where the country goes. I don't think there will be any other person, doesn't matter who wins the election, who can cajole the kind of support that Senator Johnson cajored to put the county behind whomever would then be elected president. And when he died, I remember writing something along those lines in terms of how significant he had been as a kinsman in terms of selecting President Sirleaf, President Weir, President Boakai in successions, right? So Nimba County needs someone who can unite the people. They need someone who can do, because again, love him or loathe him, Prince Johnson brought the people together when it mattered, right? Whether he did it through fear, whether he did it through influence, it's up to people to determine that, right? But he brought them together. They always voted where he said they should vote. Let me land.
Only brought some of the people together because he left out the Crown people, he left out the We and Doro people and stuff like that. But go ahead.
When I say the people, we're talking numbers, so with the majority, right? That's what I mean. Okay. We're talking about the majority of the people. There's nobody, even you, Dennis, you can't bring all 5 of us in one direction. Nobody can bring 100%. You always bring a majority at least. We're talking about 49 in the legislature and stuff that you can't. You have to get a majority, and he always took the majority. So the fact that the minority group didn't follow him is not what I'm trying to say. There isn't anyone, I believe, that can bring the majority anymore, like Prince Johnson did, and that means that, unfortunately, whilst the county is yearning for that, I don't believe either of the candidates will be able to do that. I think the former superintendent, having served in a county-wide position, should be afforded that opportunity, because I think she has a better understanding of the needs of the county, having served in the county-wide position. And I agree with Dr. Williams when he says, look, Koga has been in the legislature for years. He hasn't done much in the district that he represents. How can we now think that he would do much for a whole county, right? So when you have a little small district, you do enough in that district. How can you now, what is the CV that we're looking at to say, okay, look, here's what he's done in the district. He's not going to amplify that on the county-wide level. So I'm not even going to let you ask me the question. My endorsement would be with the former superintendent, if I had a say in my politics. But I think because she served the people on that county-wide level, I think she would be the best.
Just to be fair to Koga, right? When you say he has not done much, what is that? What is expected? What do you think he should have done that he didn't do?
As a representative, I believe one of the things you need to do is to seek the interest of your people, right? Interest in the sense of, okay, for example, in his district, if the healthcare sector there is broken, has he brought it to a level that is respectable nationally? If the education system is broken, has he brought it to a level? I've never heard him advocate, right, for his district.
Dr. Budi,
Sorry.
if I could just help out in that question that Dennis
Oh
is
yeah.
asking,
Please, something.
if I can just help out, what was he expected to do? Uh, the question should better be, why is he wanting to be senator? What is he going to the Senate to do that he can't do as a representative? That's for me is a better question. That informs and tells the public and the people of Nimba as against what he's already done, what he's now going to do as a senator. And so, what has he done? And why is he wanting to go to the Senate? What is it about the Senate? Is it all about filling in the seat that Prince Johnson left, walking in Prince Johnson's shadow? Prince Johnson will remain an icon, an irreplaceable icon of Nimba County for the next several decades. We're not having a war anymore where Nimbayans will have to lead a war effort and there will be another Prince Johnson coming. There will not be another war in that country for which another Prince Johnson is going to surface. But
Thank you.
Nimba needs a personality that will represent the intelligence of Nimba. The intelligence. Nimba has the highest number of schools. Nimba is a pace setter as far as Liberia is concerned. And so they need someone who can more ably represent them. And there's nobody else in that collection of candidates than Edith Gonga West.
Uh-oh.
You know?
He got 2 votes now. Call your name.
Yep.
Yeah. Firstly, I think the Nimba people, they have their own reason why they love Prince Johnson, but I don't see Prince Johnson to be an over influential person. Because the fact is, they make a lot of decisions in Nimba on tribal lands. So Prince Johnson influence came about from his attempting to run as a presidential candidate, knowing that the people normally vote on tribal lands, they're going to vote for him. So it was a smart strategy so that when they vote for him in the second round, he can use it as a bargaining tool. And if you remember when the Americans put sanction on him, that was what the sanction was about, because he was trading votes, for cash. So for me, they would do themselves a great service to break that link. I mean, there are so many others who have worked for Nimba, who have been like medical doctors or other service. They should look at some of those people as opposed to saying, "Oh, we want to continue the Prince Johnson legacy," because it's not a very good legacy anyway. But in terms of who they should choose, I think I'm of the front that the opposition politicians should talk to each other more and try to minimize the number of opposition candidates that go in the race, because that is a practical way to have to improve your chances. So if you have a very objectionable candidate, let's say maybe Koga now, but if you have 3 or 4 or 5 other candidates, they minimize their chance of winning. But having said that, I think it's a wild card, because this is the first election in which Prince Johnson will not be looming large. So really it's unpredictable. And maybe after this election, before we'll be able to predict how Nimba will go. But for this one, it's difficult to predict how they will
go. Thank you. Mr. C.A., will this election mirror anything out of 2029? Because, and the reason I ask that is people are looking at this and say, wherever, let's say, Koga is now, kind of unity party leaning and being supported by the current vice president and all that, right? So how does this tell us what, or will it tell us what 2029 will look like?
Dennis, I don't like the fact that we are talking about 2029. I really don't like that.
I know. I can see it from your face.
I feel that it's foolish, to say the least. We have about 4+ years until we get to the election. But you know what is happening in Liberia? Unfortunately now, political actors, they are consumed excessively who becomes the next president. So what we do now to improve human conditions is of less importance to the political actors. You see a vice president now who should be an able lieutenant to the president, focusing on how to better lives. I may be wrong, but I feel that he's more consumed now. What happens 2029? And so I will leave that. The question I want to answer, Dennis, is Dr. George said that Prince Johnson, was an icon. I wish he had qualified that. He was a dangerous icon. And I really want that to be qualified. Look, we now.
Why would you want me to qualify my perspective? He was an icon.
Hold on.
I did not disagree with you. I did not disagree that he was an icon to many people. But I just wish you had qualified that. What kind of icon he was as a national political actor at the time. He was dangerous. He was vicious. We know this man's history. No one intellectually should minimize the role this guy played in our country. The level of heinousness this guy perpetrated in our country should not be minimized by any Nimbayans for any wrong anyone might have done to the people of Nimba. 2 wrongs, we say in Liberia, cannot justify any right or cannot make anything to be right. I just wanted to be clear. It is Nimba people's business to decide who becomes Nimba's senator. I have no fish to fry, but equally, we cannot divorce Nimba from Liberia. Nimbayans are Liberians. Nimba politicians are Liberian politicians, and they made decisions that impact us. So I have a fish to fry indirectly. The idea, what I agree with Dr. George here is, what is this man going to do differently when he becomes senator, who has proven to be an incompetent representative of the people? How will he become competent overnight when he becomes senator? The senatorial role, is even a heavier one for this man. I can argue that those roles are pretty much about the same, representing your people, advocating for them. Has it been effective? I would say no. And then the cost associated with this terrible decision, as though Nimba does not have people qualified enough to replace Prince Johnson, we have to use a representative now to replace Prince Johnson, and now we have to find money again to go conduct another election just to fill a single seat. We have to conduct election 2 times. Should that man be the one to win? How is that a good decision from a unity party? This is not new, and this is foolish decision. We are talking about we don't have enough money and want to have 2 elections to fill a single seat when any of these representatives do not make any consequential impact in moving our country forward, and we should be spending money this way. It's a waste of time. Nimba people have highly educated people, competent people who can fill this seat. We don't have to replace Prince Johnson with Koga, and then we'll try to find a replacement for Koga. It's
constitutional right.
Who are the people making this decision? Right. So I said this much to the people of Nimba. All right, you are a bigger part of what Liberia is. Please don't set this terrible example. Kuga is your son. It is his right to contest for the position, but a better decision is to allow him to serve as representative now and find somebody else and save us that money. Maybe we can use that money for one of the schools in Nimba. Let Kuga advocate to put more money, to put more money in the budget for schools and hospitals and clinics in Nimba to improve human conditions there. Becoming a senator changes nothing, because he's still going to be the same Kuga who sits in a hotel and dances and then he sweats profusely. That's all he's good at. I rest my case.
Dr. Budi, I want to give you a minute because I see a lot of things popping in your head.
No, I think, obviously, the question I was going to ask is, I was going to ask the question, but I'm just going to make a statement. Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, 2 American presidents that I think some of you in here will find to be very iconic U.S. presidents. But those 2 were responsible for a lot of death. Obama in Libya, Clinton with his 3-strike rule that sent so many black people to prison and killed them in the US. So are you going to say that the people who think that he did a good job can't call him an icon because he did things that were horrible and led some people to their deaths? You can't say that, and you can't infringe on this Dr. Williams' right to phrase his opinion the way he wants to phrase it. So I think Mr. C is out of order, and maybe an apology should come as well. I think, look, at the end of the day, I support Madam Ware, not because of this issue of, if we move this piece here, then we have to replace this piece. He has a constitutional right to run, right? I don't think he's the best person for Nimba County, but he has a constitutional right. We can't sit here and talk about the Supreme Court and the majority block and say they're illegal, and then at the same time say, let's infringe on his right to run to be a resident. That's his right, right? So, Mr. C, again, you're contradicting yourself. Look, at the end of the day, I've said it in terms of what I believe is right. This lady has proven, right? She's served in a county-wide position for years. She understands the issues of the people of Nimba County, and I believe because of her experience. Because Dennis, you asked the question, what could I do? At least me, I can answer the question, what will I do? She ran the Nimba County, the executive branch of Nimba County, if I should put it that way, for years. She understands the county, understands the system, and understands the issues that are going wrong. And she would be, because of that experience, the best person. Koga, I get it.
Thank you. Thank you. So Mr. Sia, can we have an endorsement? All right, we're gonna move to one more issue.
But you ask the councilor.
Councilor,
What?
will you endorse anyone? Or let's say the ANC endorsed Edith Gonglo. Where will you be endorsing also?
Well, no, I don't want to endorse but I want to encourage the people of Nimba to not believe that they need to replace Prince Johnson, because Prince Johnson was not the best representation of Nimba. I believe a lot of very good citizens from Nimba were a better representation than Prince Johnson. So this is an opportunity for them to break away from that Prince Johnson thing and find somebody else. I think that's where I want to start.
Thank you. Mr. Sia, you have an endorsement?
No, Dennis, I don't have an endorsement to make.
But you don't like Koga.
Koga? No, I don't hate Koga. I have no reason to hate him. I just trying to put some fire on his back to do his job. It doesn't mean I don't like him. I like that he's a good dancer. I can bring him in to dance for me. And that would be something. I don't have an endorsement, Dennis. I will not be endorsing somebody for Nimba. I can only endorse somebody for my county grand crew, or if somebody is running for president, maybe I can endorse that person. But unfortunately, most of the candidates, they don't meet my standard. My standards are high, Dennis.
Thank you. I read a story in the paper, and that's why I'm bringing it. And this story is from front page. It says Senate Pro Temp Nyonblee Kanga Lawrence called for urgent action to prevent maternal deaths in Liberia. She was speaking at a program. She said she had called for collective action to prevent maternal death and ensure the health and safety of mothers and newborns in Liberia. Speaking at a program observing World Health Day, Kanga Lawrence highlighted the urgent need for improved healthcare infrastructure, education, and resources to address the high rates of maternal and neonatal mortality in the country. Right? In her keynote address, she drew attention to the alarming statistics from Liberia 2019-2029 Demographic Health Survey, which reported a maternal mortality rate of 742 deaths per 100,000 births, well above the sub-Saharan average of 542. The reason I brought this is Nyonblee Kanga Lawrence is the Senate Pro Tem, right? And there is I'll tell you a story. There is a crude drum. When they play the crude drum, it sounds like there's something like Wuluda Nuda, Wuluda Nuda, meaning saying one thing and doing the other. Nyonblee is the one who is presiding over the budget that is giving so little to healthcare, but she's calling on people to take action, right? So when I read the story, all those things were coming to me. Nyonblee was the one who was doing this Senate retreat that cost so much money. Nyonblee is the one approving a budget that says take almost 90% for salary and just this little for development. Am I in my feelings here, Dr. Booty?
Oh no, you're not. And obviously, I know the pro tem as well, but I'm with you 100% on this. I think, look, where I would start from, and I think most of us have heard charity begins at home, right? Senator Kanga Lawrence is rich, right? Whether it be from serving in the legislature for all these years or the work she did in the private sector before, she has money, right? So one would think that she would have had some philanthropic project going on in Grand Bassa County that she can point to say, look, this is how we should be doing it. Because to whom much is given, much is expected. Now, most of us in this group would probably have philanthropic ventures that we're engaged in back home, whether it be in education or healthcare or whatever. So the senator should start from that. Do something in your county that you can point to. Say, look, see what I'm doing in my area. I'm giving 100,000 a year or whatever thousands a year to a project that is supplying new mothers and babies in Grand Bassa County with the things they need to survive. This is something that is down my alley, right? So in 2022, I started a charity in the UK. I've got two daughters, and when I look at their privileged lifestyle and how kids are dying in Liberia, I decided to bring my peers together, raise money. And in September last year, we made our first trip to Liberia. We were at the ERW hospital. We're in the process of working to build a neonatal unit in another hospital around the pipeline area. I ain't senator, but I understand that people are struggling. They need help. You have the money. Take some of that money. So Dennis can be the Durunko drum here. Take some of that money and invest it. You give some back. And then when you're telling your fellow senators, look, we need to do more, people can point to say, see what she's doing. And then the second part that you talk about, Dennis, these people are collecting so much money on a monthly basis from the Liberian people that they could even half what they're collecting and say, look, we'll give this half to the health sector in Liberia, and they will still carry enough home to survive. But no, they increase the thing every time the budget comes. They want to increase their allowances, increase their office allocation, increase their salaries. So yes, I agree with you 100%. She's saying one thing in the public, maybe because she thinks that that's what people want to hear. When the power that she has to make change, she's using it for something completely different.
Thank you, Mr. Sear. We also saw Nyonblee and DeLong going to the U.S. embassy to ask for something that they have in their power. I think it was the election to do. So, are there other areas where our government officials are saying one thing and doing the other, like in the case of Nyonblee? I mean, you have the power of the purse, and you every 3 months. I mean, she's been there how long now? So every 3 years there's a new car. I think was it Thomas Fala who called for say let's create a pool out of JFK. Almost like a public option healthcare kind of thing. Like let's put money aside so when people come to JFK or any other public hospital and they can't afford, they can use some of that money. I think if they even say, okay, we'll not take car for the entire term, which is 9 years, that money can do something else. But we see that they are always calling on others to do something and they are not doing it. Mr. Sear, are there other areas that you see where they are beating this crew drum, no doubt?
I don't know if they are all crew people beating the crew drum, the drum has been beaten everywhere on every issue, Dennis. And the reason is our leaders need to understand that they can't look somewhere else. They have to look within themselves. We have to look at our budget. That is what we have. We can all debate how to increase the budget because that should be our primary source. And if, in fact, I can argue that should be our only source. Anything comes from anywhere, it should be a plus. That is how we should look at it. And this is a woman with enormous power. She's very close to the president. She gets whatever she wants because of the consequential political role she played during the campaign time. She should have been the choice for vice president. She was not chosen. All right. She was unhappy about it. She decided to support President Bouaka. And Bouaka then said, okay, if that is the case, whatever you want, I'm speaking politically here, you will get it. What happened? To become Senate Pro Tem among, men highly qualified, no one contested. The woman was elected on the web ballot, Dennis. By 5, she is not the most qualified in terms of education, in fact, in terms of experience in the Senate. But she was the only candidate among men like Abbott Chie, Amara Conan, or Augustine Chie, your former teacher. Dennis, we are talking men, and none of them did not pull forward.
If you stress the men too much, the ladies will go after you. So be careful.
Let the ladies come after me. I'm speaking my mind here. Where are the ladies?
Just stop
Where
talking.
are the ladies? We have a chief justice who is dancing kakaleka on a decision so small like this. So where are the ladies? Dennis, look, I don't want to go to the story about my mother. Let me stick to the topic here. All right. Our women need to up their game. They have it in them. They need to bring it out. So I'm talking about.
Ask you to say, what's about the men? The men up their game?
Yes. I've been on the man's bag, you know that.
Okay, yeah, because
all right. I have been critical of the president. I have been very critical of the former president. I am tough on the men, even more than the women. But the women, this is gender equity we're talking about. The other day we had Joel Howard Taylor crying like a baby, for benefits. All right. This is a woman who experienced 16 million budget as senator, rep, and then vice president. We're talking about it. This woman has been supported by the Liberian people from the time she was first lady, from the time when she was at Central Bank. This woman has not gone without a job for the past for 3 years period. No, she has been holding consequential positions, and she's crying for benefits, even though that's her right. But what does she do to make that possible? That's besides the point. But then let me come to the subject here. So, my brother, Nyonblee Kaga Lawrence just want to be heard. She has everything in her power to ensure that pregnant women who are giving birth are not dying at childbirth or immediately after childbirth because of little funding. She has a gavel in her hand to ensure that significant allotment is being made for maternal care in Liberia. And she's not doing that. Who is she calling on? The Americans again, because you are giving an example of Senator Dillon, who went to the embassy to protest. A senator went to a foreign mission to protest. A senator, a representative of the people who has been given the power to represent the people and advocate for the people. He went to another government. The government that is a stranger in his country, that the government he went to ask for power when he has power in his hand. Why? Because he disagreed with a decision at the National Election Commission at the time. Do the people even know they are leaders? I doubt it.
Anthony Freeman.
Okay, let's go back to the budget that Nyonblee Kanga just passed. The 2025 budget. Do you remember the figure? The overall?
About 800 and something million, I think.
850 million. 850. Out of that 850, public administration, that is executive marshal, representative, senator, and all of that, public administration and security consume 450 million out of the 850 million. Just public administration and security, which include EPS and NSC and all of that. So 450 million by just 2 sectors, security, public administration, that's 53% of the budget right there. More than half. Now, what did she give to health? 10%. What did she give to social development? 1.7%. Because under social development, that's where you likely may have some of these social services that can help mothers and other things. 1.7, agriculture 1.8%, infrastructure 8%. So the problem, Liberian people already know what the problem is, that the government is collecting the taxes and they are using almost everything to serve them in the government. And then the things that are supposed to help the people, like health, like agriculture, like infrastructure and social development, they allocate precious little or nothing in those areas. So it's just the same lip service that goes on because she knows where the problem should be. She decided they're not solving the problem. They're there, they collect the money, they spend it, no audit, no accountability, and the country gets poorer and poorer, and she makes speeches. For as far as I'm concerned, it's just a regular blah, 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 because she knows what they are supposed to do in order to improve maternal services. Secondly, the statistic you quoted, right, that she was quoting is from what? 2019, right?
Yeah.
Why is she not quoting the statistic from 2024 report from Health Ministry? Why is she going back to 2019 when we are in 2025? Because the government, there is no accountability. Every year they give them money. They're supposed to produce an annual report that's supposed to update information. But they don't care. Even the House of Representatives and the Senate, they don't even do annual reports. They don't do annual audit. They don't do performance report, performance audit. So at the end of the day, they have to go to 2019 to quote statistics. How can you be in 2025 and quoting statistics from 2019? Are you on a historical project? Because if it's not a historical project, if it's a contemporary issue, you should be reading from the 2024 Ministry of Health report. It's just to show you that Liberia has put their hands in the hands of incompetent and wicked people. And unless the Liberian voters decide to move away from these people, things are not going to change for them.
Man. I mean, I heard her presiding when the president told you find 300. Senator from the Sino, you are fine. The next day I saw her playing kickball. Hey, you have all right for recreation, but let's do the people business, man. All right. And that's a fine segue into what I have to show you when I say broken infrastructure in Buaka's Liberia. I intentionally call it Buaka's Liberia because I think the president should own the economy, the healthcare, everything now. So I read a story also in the paper where people in Kakata are talking about, they say the infrastructure gaps that are existing. They say we are right here in the month of Monrovia. Look at what we have. So I was looking for, so I had a little PowerPoint here where this is classroom. You see the other one. After the student leave, you see the goats and the sheep. They are there, right? That's what you see there. You see, somebody is carrying on a project in River G, and say River G, even though I spoke to someone from River G, they said this issue has been fixed now. But I wanted to show this. Students sitting on the floor because no chair. You see their reading room and you see the library, right? I want you to see it because I have a few things to say about this. Okay, on the right here, I think that's Cotiton, something they are trying to do there. In the middle, that's another library. And you see the school building. Here, children learning under the trees. You see the student, that classroom right there. You see the former senator, this other picture from River G inspecting some facilities there. Some of these things might have been corrected. In the midst of that, when you come to Monrovia, you see opulence, right? Mm-hmm. You see the president in his talk. You see President Buaka, Lexus. You see Eugene Nyonblee, who has been in government since Taylor time. So that's a sharp difference. Now, I want you to also show the senator in the classroom, but look at the hole right there. And people are just sitting down. There's a classroom in the in-class. And that's why one writer called them the victims. He said the students are the victim of this neglected school system. They are taking notes I just like how the picking, he say, if that to sit down here and take note, me and I'm doing it. You see how you looking?
He probably
Another
hungry.
classroom. There's a junior high school in my own Sino County. And we are very creative with our benches. This classroom. And there's a signboard that is like we can't even face one for ourselves. You know, I saw this picture. I don't know. They say this is a FDA office, and then if you remember our former, so I mean I said broken infrastructure, maybe not the best word, but do we not see the deterioration, or are we just incapable of finding solution? What is the issue here, Konyene?
Okay. Firstly, like I was talking about the budget, right? We are always going to have that problem if more than half of our budget is spent on the government. I mean, just running the government, the executive, the representative, the senator, and the security people. That's one part of it. The other part of it, I think, is the Liberian people. They are complicit in their own suffering. And sometimes we don't have to polish it. We have to tell the Liberian people just as the way it is. For example, you show a picture with a senator there, right?
Right.
Bekuba Jr., Bill Twelve. That man was sanctioned for stealing from the government before he went to election. And the Liberian people voted for him. Now, if the Americans said this man is a criminal, they didn't tell you say don't vote for him, but they said this man is a criminal. He has stolen millions of dollars from you. And you turn around and vote for the criminal and put the criminal in power. What do you logically expect? You could say the same for McGill. You could say the same for Jeremiah Kuhn, Edwin Snow, Ellis Tyler. So on the one hand, you have the government stealing from the people, stealing all the money from the people, spending it on themselves, living lavishly. On the other hand, the Liberian people must understand that you can't continue to be voting for criminals and expect your life to change. They have to get away from that. If they don't get away from that, they're going to stay long inside. It's just as simple as that.
So the verse here is, seek ye first the government job, and all these shall be added unto you.
Yeah.
Dr. Budi, I want to take it to, and you can feel free to respond to the first one, but it is often said that heaven helps those who help themselves. Or in Labrador, we say when someone is washing your back, you should wash your own stomach. Why are Liberians or the people not helping to do what is in their control? Like I'll show you the hole in front of the president, in front of the senator. Are you telling me the people sitting there, they can say, okay, let's get debt from outside and put in this hole to fill it? Or the signboard in Sino County, we have to wait for USAID to do it. When it's falling, we can't do it ourselves. The people sitting down on the floor, you want to tell me you can go, just take a cord it so, and bring it to school to sit down on it? Why are we doing this to ourselves and we are waiting for other government or NGO? Well, is it the mindset thing or what is it?
There are a lot of things, right? And I think I like the terminology used by Councillor Freeman, wickedness, right? And I'll come back to that. But I think the education system, a couple of weeks ago, we were on here talking about the progressives in Liberia, and I mentioned that for years, the way that the so-called republic was set up was in a way that the central government neglected education and outsourced our education to missionary groups and whomever was a philanthropist who believed in education at some point. Unfortunately, globally, the number of people going to churches, especially these big mission churches, are dropping. So, like the Orthodox churches are losing a lot of members. So they don't have the same amount of money to be sponsoring schools and building schools across Liberia as they used to. So, unfortunately, because this system of neglect of our education system has been there for years, these guys don't believe in doing things that they should be doing to improve the education sector. I also believe, and I come to the weakness thing that Councillor Freeman talked about, that it is a deliberate attempt. And I said this once, I think on the On Point last year, that Socrates, who talked about the vote, right? And he said that, look, only people who are educated on the issues should be allowed to vote. And I think what we're missing in Liberia is the voting population are not educated on the issue. Hence, when Koga can and just says anything to them, they'll vote for them. When another person kind of bring back a red, they'll vote for it because they don't understand the fundamental, well-grounded, systemic issues that are making sure that they are kept in the places they are kept. You cannot tell me that the senator sitting there with a big gauntlet also does not understand that the school needs equipment, that the school needs to be brought to a level. You can't tell me that he doesn't have the financial resources to say, you know what, I will take it upon myself as senator of this county to bring one of the schools up to a standard so that my people are educated, so that the next Bill Tawai can come too. But he didn't want it because at the end of the day, they want those people to be ignorant so those people can keep voting for them with the nonsense that they keep selling. So it's wickedness plus a clear strategy to perpetuate that wickedness, knowing that once the people are not educated, they do not know what's good. It's easier for them to vote purely on their bellies when they do not understand these real systemic issues. You know, Mr. Carlott said how they were beaten, how they were starved, how they were tortured. They understood the issue, so they were willing to sacrifice, to fight for change. And these guys don't want the Liberian people to reach that level, which is why they're systemically keeping education as it is, keeping the people stupid, so that the people keep voting them in the office. It's unfair. And again, I keep going back to what Councillor Freeman said. That wickedness. That's all you can say about it. Because no senator in Liberia deserves to take home, I believe, more than $5,000. Complete, including the scratch card, including gas fee, everything should be $5,000. Right? No senator deserves to take more than that. And the rest of the money should be put towards projects, education, agriculture, healthcare, because those are the things that bring the ordinary people to a certain level.
I even say 3,000.
At least they will be happy with me. They say,
yeah. But you in your own country, we paying you a house allowance, and then spending money is different. Mr. C, two things on the table here, and I have not studied the president of Burkina Faso to see what he's doing. I think they say right now he's going to war, say no taxes, don't pay anything. We have too much money here. I mean, and even with my dream job, every day I think about Sino now, and that's what it's consuming my mind, right? Like Sino County is one of the richest in the country, and the money even people should be paid can come from right there, right? I mean, why should we live in a country that kids are being treated like this? I think the takeaway here is wickedness. And what is it that we are not able to do for ourselves? So I believe
it's not able, it's unwilling. That's the thing.
So is that a private school or is that a public school?
We don't know the difference anymore. Like the Sino school, that's a public.
Yeah,
school.
let me get interject. The first thing is, when it comes to school, there should be minimum standard, right? So the government need to have minimum standard for school. A property like this should not be licensed in the first place as a school. But yeah, where's the problem coming most of the time in Liberia with the corruption? If somebody is supposed to be an inspector and is supposed to go and inspect and maybe close down a school because it doesn't reach minimum standard, that person is likely to just take a little bribe, put it in a pocket, and forget about things. So we have a much bigger problem. Just an interjection.
Mr. CA, why are we having this situation?
Dennis, sometimes you think about it, you can't even believe that we continue to have, these kind of situations. When we have elected representatives, when you're having presidents. One thing I can pinpoint is priorities.
Yeah, but Mr. C, the people in the town, we call it to adopt this. You won't tell me no debt? for them to dub this.
But if the double will it still be substandard. Even if the double on their own, it will still be substandard. And that is the problem. There should be minimum standards. The education ministry should have a minimum standard for school. And whether you are public or private, everybody should meet that minimum standards. Okay? But look, I work in the government. Yeah, how it works. The people will allocate that money. They will start dividing it from the capital building. When it gets to the ministry, the minister will start chopping down. When it gets to the department, they will start chopping down. So before it even gets to the actual beneficiary, there is nothing left. And that's why you see, that's not surprising. I was part of the election in 2017. I saw a junior high school with 3 classrooms. I saw an elementary school with 1 teacher. And that has been going on for long. While that has been going on, we have a legislature that has spent almost $1 billion without accountability. So if you are not going to account, the money that should be available by way of accountability, that money gets put into personal pocket like what we see. And these people still dance for Mr. Weir. They are still dancing for Mr. Weir. Even though he was part and parcel of the exploitation, they still dance for him. So the responsibility is not only on the politician. Let's get that clear today. Because it will give the people a free pass when we let them know that the only reason why they are suffering is politician. No, one half of it is politician. The politician are misusing the money. The other half of it is the people. They cannot continue to vote for criminals and expect that their life will get better.
On that note, our governor, Zah, say, what option do our people have when it comes to who to elect? Easier said than is the reality. But let Mr. Sia continue his thought. Mr. Sia.
Yeah, so Dennis, I'm here, and I was saying that these conditions, these situations are all over the place. And sometimes you get confused to even pinpoint what actually is responsible. There are many factors. One, funding, which is a big factor. But if you ask me to name one factor that is responsible for all of these challenges, I would say because we have no leadership. Leadership. Now, how long have we been talking about decentralization, Dennis? How long? Do you remember when the war ended? All right, we have our first election after the war in 2005. The first government took over in 2006, right? And now we're talking 2025. You know how many years have passed? We stay talking decentralization. We have not implemented anything meaningful on decentralization.
Mr. Sia, let me interrupt you again and bring in George to announce our numbers in Monrovia.
Okay.
Mr. Goy, if you are there, please announce our numbers.
Yeah, guys, just listen. That's up. Okay, folks. So wherever you are on a Thursday evening like this, the numbers to call 0777 959 959 0777 959 959. The numbers to call and be a part on the show this evening.
Thank you. And if you are in the US or anywhere in the diaspora, call 605-213-6004. The code is 791-403#. Mr. C. And while you are there, there's this guy, he said, Denny Philip, member of the legislature should make at least $12,000 monthly. It is easy to sit on social media and propose whatever little salary you choose. If you want to find out why, check the number of people who go to the Capitol on a daily basis seeking assistance from these guys. These guys go through hell from their constituents. Fidel, are you angry or?
No. You know, when I mentioned what Socrates said about only people who understand the issue to vote, that's an example of someone who doesn't understand the issue. And I'll just say quickly, right? If you're paying police officers $130, $150, right? They can't survive on that. But if you chop the money from the top, the 3,000 you're talking about, if you chop that extra, because they're making what, 15,000, so you chop the 12,000 from the top of it. So yeah, the 10,000 according to Dillon, the whole package is 15, right? So if you chop that 12,000 from the top of it, what do you do with that money? You redistribute it at the bottom. If you think most of the people in government are making like $400-500 minimum, you think they'll be going to the senator to go beg for money? You think they will want that indignity to go and beg another person for money? They beg because they have no choice. But if you pay them a living wage, have you seen people who work in banks go to senators and go beg for money? Do you see people who work in the NGO sector go to senators to beg them for money? No, because they're paid a living wage. So they don't need to beg. So someone like that tells you why we need to educate people on the issues in Liberia.
I'm just curious how much that guy is making. He might be close to one of the representatives or senators to say that. And so giving his experience is like, wow, he's feeding for them. These people,
we have some trouble there.
yeah, man, you are really disturbing me, man. I can't even continue.
Mr. C, we are hearing you.
Okay, guys. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. This is Emmanuel Saki, and I call you from Johnsonville.
Welcome to the program, Mr. Saki.
Thanks so much. Of course, been following the program for the past half an hour, and one time the discussion. One of the things, one of the senior brother just made mention of was concerning education. That has been my biggest worry. I do work and do the private business, but basically selling the public through transport. And what I hear is that I hear a lot of ignorance when people talk election. People vote on reasons that has nothing at all to do with what people's functions are. But one thing again, I try to see how can we do this education. Are we only waiting for election time to start a civil education? Only politicians going to tell people what they should vote for and how to vote for. People like the brother who just spoke about educating people. Could there be some network organized to a UFO organization of people that will go around in rural communities to actually educate the ordinary people as to what election is all about and why do we vote people to power? I think we'll start to understand the basic issues before election reaches. We can have some educated people that can make some sound decisions. But to be honest, we'll continue to make the decision over and over, year in, year out. Get education to the general public is only done around election time. We all know that is very insufficient to change the minds of the people. And to be honest, like we wouldn't move forward if people are not fully educated to do this thing I want to do. Somebody told me in the past before that a typical Liberian man who is out there wants you to always call him Bobby. So you always put in the position where you have to extend hand to beg. Then who is giving a hand to be on top of yours, and you will always be down and you will always be out there. So in order to change the entire perspective, has to do with education. Educating the common man, educating the market woman. Why do we vote, and on what basis are we to vote? If you questions are not clearly understood or clearly explained to the voters, for years, there's not only election time, and we will continue to have this problem. Even the 14 election that we have today, going to the night become potential voters. Are we having this program in schools with social club in the various schools that are educating people? I understand savings is no longer taught in school, to be honest. Where are we getting to? Thank you so much, but I'm still following the program.
Okay, my brother, thanks for calling. The numbers to call 0777 959 959 0777 959 959. The numbers to call and be a part on the show. Dennis, you have any call from your end?
Yeah, Trogon Bayou. Trogon, you're alive.
How are you? How you guys doing? I've been listening to the show. I didn't know you guys new time slot now.
Yeah, we on the radio. Yeah, go ahead, Trogon.
Good. And it's good to catch you today. Alex, why Dennis not coming on nowadays? I didn't know you got a new time slot now. But you know, the issue of education in our country has been a problem from day one. You know, when you those schools that you're showing on screen, because I'm watching you on my big screen at the same time talking to you on my phone here. I mean, it's just pathetic. You got little children sitting on the ground, sitting on benches, mock house. They didn't even mock the whole house to make it look better, but did the whole, I know when you read, they want to be flashing on little children. So it's just so sad that our government chose to end no education and to invest in people who really do not need it, like the legislators, because it seems that our country invest in our lawmakers and the people. And it's also sad. One of the issues that we face in Liberia is the level of implicit biases. That the moment you started talking about ordinance, the Councilor Fremont started pointing strictly at George. They're still clapping for him. They still want him. Why you didn't mention the other politicians too? You only mentioned George Weah. George Weah did not really private that we have to be. He inherited it. So we can't put all the blame on him. So that shows some level of implicit biases on your part, brother. At least try to be a little bit balanced so God can pay attention to you. No. So, but that's the problem we have in our country. I hope we can do better. I hope the legislators can sit down and look at some of these situations and see how they can restructure the budget, at least to invest more into the people than into themselves. I hope we can do that. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you. Konyon, before you come in, Tony Leeway replied, said, Brother Denny is making a serious error on this topic. Lawmakers are not charitable entities, and their actions are not intended to help their constituents permanently. This is an attempt to keep people as a bid for electoral gain.
Okay, Mr. Dennis, let me ask for you there a little bit. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening, ma'am. Your name, where are you calling from?
I'm Marius. I'm calling from around to talk to you.
Marius, welcome to the program.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the topic on the discussion. I'm so happy to get listen to these people. And I've been wondering where you people do all of these months and years, and we have been going through all these problems. I believe we have been talking like how you are talking tonight. You have done better things in Liberia. So I'm glad to listen to people. I pray that people continue to talk for us in this country, that our people will change from that bad behavior and move this country forward. Thank God for it too.
Okay, Marius, thank you for calling. We on from Tuesday. Tuesday is a repeat. Then Thursday we live in studio. Then Saturday we live in studio. So you can join us anytime.
Thank you. Tony Lewis is also saying on the issue of Nimba Senatorial election, the only person in that race to change the narrative of our people is Dr. George Gompu, who has proven honesty, integrity, and is prepared, competent, and can make a difference in Nimba and Liberia at large. I will call your name if you want to respond.
Yeah. Look, I wasn't particular about Weah. I mentioned Weah just as an example of how Liberian people continue to put themselves in problem. George Weah was a populist. He came to power on the back of the ordinary people. So some of these problems that we are experiencing was the problem for which those people wanted to solve, for which they put George Weah in power. What did George Weah did? He took the country money, he wasted it, he blew it, he spent all his time to Jamaica Lodge, he danced, he sang, and he did nothing concrete for the people. But when George Weah is around, they still worship him. And if you have an election today, probably he will still win. So I'm trying to tell the Liberian people, look, there are two problems there. One problem is the politician eating the money. That one. But tell the Liberian people the truth, that the other half of the problem is that they cannot continue to vote for foolish people and expect their country to get better. That is the other half of the problem that we need to say. We can't tell that the Liberian people ain't got sense, that they're not educated, that they're not, look, even if you are not educated, you can feel hunger. You know what is a dilapidated school. You don't need a PhD to know that a school is dilapidated. And you don't need to know that the people who are responsible for the dilapidated system, you don't need to vote for them. Don't follow them. So we can spend our time bashing the politicians, say they're eating all the money, they're not accounting, but we let the voter off the hook. Stop voting for people who have suffered you, who have, rejected you to poverty. Stop it, because that's the first step in improving your condition, is to not vote for these people.
Thank you. Thank you. Fidel, response to our caller if you have any.
Oh no, no. I think Councillor Freeman said. I think look, he used President Weah as an example, and he is a perfect example. I was a critic. I love the guy as an individual, as a footballer. I don't think I'm against him ever becoming president. I just don't think he was equipped at the time that he became president. He didn't take the time to learn. All of the time when he lost the election in 2005, he could have learned. He could have gone into the House of Representatives and try and understand issues in Liberia before then coming out to run. He had the opportunity to bring the right people around him, people who could question him and push him to do the right things, but he brought a bunch of sycophants and yes men who plundered our country. You know, Councillor talked about Mr. Tiawe, or whatever his name is called, Mr. McGill, and others who the U.S. have sanctioned because of the corrupt actions that they did. And I remember the president suspended them. And I wrote a piece in the Front Page Africa calling, for an investigation, not just a suspension, right? In the end, they resigned, which again was a delegation of his duty because he should have fired them, right? Investigate and then fire them. Don't let them resign. But yeah, I think it was a good example of why, I go back to my Socrates point of reference. We have to educate our people. I think I like what the brother said, and the other caller, that look, we need to try and do something. As commentators on this show, on this broadcast, we need to continue to think about how we can come together. And I'm glad that Dr. Williams and I were talking before the show started about something. We need to find ways. Look, talking is one thing. And the reason why I pointed to what Senator Kanga Lawrence could have been doing in her own district, we have to take actions individually and collectively. It's easy to ask people to come and work with you when you're doing nothing. Start doing something and then people will join you, right? So we need to find ways to educate our people. How we do it, I don't know the answer, but I'm willing to listen and learn and work with anyone who will help change our country.
Thank you, and that's why we are here. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. At this time, I'll give each of you 38 seconds to close as we are drawing down the curtains. So why that number? Fidel, go, Dr. Budi, go ahead. You're closing.
Oh yeah, no, it's been a great show. As always, we've touched on some really important things. Unfortunately, I disagree. The one I want to end on is my disagreement with anyone who believes that the Supreme Court of Liberia has acted with integrity. They haven't, and they need to now come out and clarify, because all of this mess maybe would have been sorted if they had just said it simply the first time, that you guys shouldn't be doing this. Kofa is the legitimate speaker. The simple English, no ultra virus business.
Thank you. Anthony Freeman.
Yeah, I think eventually the problem at the legislature will go back and they will have to resolve it among themselves, because like I said, even if they rule for Fonati Kofa and say he is the legitimate speaker, he still has to have a quorum in order to convene. And in the absence of a quorum, he will not be able to convene. The other thing I want to say is regarding the pro-tem. These people went to our, towns and villages and promised that they were going to make the country better. But that's not what they have done. They said they were going to rescue the ordinary citizen, but that's not what they are doing. Half of the budget is spent on executive activities. The part that has to do with agriculture, 1.8%. The part that has to do with social development, like the maternity health and other things, 1.7%. The part that has to do with health, 10%. So you taking all your money, spending it on security, spending it on executive expenditure, and not spending it on what will benefit the people is bad. But like I said, half of the problem is the politician wasting the resources, abusing the resources, and being wicked to the people. The other half of it is the Liberian people. How do they vote? They already know the people who have been wicked to them. They need to stop voting for these people who have been wicked to them. If you don't stop, the country is not going to get better. You have to stop. I stop on that note.
Thank you. Yeah, instead of making it 50, let's make it 30%. Because people, just like Dr. Budi said, it's by design. You want to keep the people down so you can be the only rooster to crow. So you have a school, you let them sit in the rain to learn so that they won't know what to do. But gentlemen, again, thank you for the time. I want to thank our friends at Kia Radio. Always watch Focus on Liberia. DJ do say, I didn't follow you much in the past, but lately I realized that we need more programs like this. I mean, I can tell you, since the fall of the Malay Empire, there has been nothing like Focus on Liberia, and you can take that to the bank. Until then, we're going to close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night, and God bless you, fellow Liberians.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Either you hate it or we want. Liberia, oh. Either you hate it or we want. Liberia, Liberia.